Statements. I recognize the member from Oshawa.
When I was first elected to serve Oshawa in 2014, it was alongside then Mayor John Henry. John was always kind and thoughtful and fair and interested in the story of Oshawa and its people. I was very grateful to work with John. Lefties thought he was a conservative and conservatives thought he was a progressive, but from my vantage point, he was always a principled, community-minded politician and neighbour. When we didn't agree on an issue, I remember John having said to me, "It's just politics, Jennifer. We can still have coffee." In 2010, the people of Durham Region voted in a referendum to stop appointing and start electing our regional chair. And so in 2014, we elected Roger Anderson. 2018 and again in 2022, Durham Region elected John Henry to be regional chair, responsible to the voters across all our communities and for the staff at the region. Unfortunately, John Henry is being very publicly fired by this Premier and his minister through new legislation that overturns the will of Durham Region residents who voted to elect their regional chair. This minister and Premier will be appointing someone who will answer to them and not to the electorate, a puppet for the Premier who can be hired and fired by this minister. This unelected chair will have control over the regional budget with strong mayor powers and will not have to answer to voters. This is taxation without representation. The Premier and Minister want someone to do as they're told, and I don't believe John Henry was ever that man. John Henry has always worked tirelessly and sincerely on behalf of the communities he has been elected to serve. He doesn't deserve this, neither do the people of Durham. Thank you, Chair Henry, for your many years of public service.
I recognize the member from Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Thank you, Speaker. A complete community is one with quality schools for children, parks, affordable housing, and reliable transit for people to make their daily commutes. But in Etobicoke Lakeshore, we are seeing more high-density luxury condos without any accompanying new infrastructure, like schools, public transportation, recreational centres and parks that communities need to thrive. Municipal planning decisions are being completely overridden by this government in all corners of our riding, including on Bloor Street and in Long Branch. The community of Humber Bay Shores, for instance, has over 30,000 people without schools or a promised GO station. The congestion is unbearable. 8 years ago, this Conservative government halted the procurement of GO stations. People in Humber Bay Shores are still waiting for this government to build Park-Lawn GO. The Ministry of Transportation must get back to directly financing and building our public transit infrastructure. We need to build complete communities, ones with affordable housing, reliable transit and schools. Because communities in my riding or anywhere in Ontario shouldn't have to fight for basic infrastructure. They should be able to count on it. Thank you.
I recognize the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
I want to thank the Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response and this government for announcing in last month's budget that it's maintaining the $20 million enhanced funding for the Fire Protection Grant in 26-27, after doubling it in 2025, to ensure firefighters on the front lines have the infrastructure and equipment necessary to protect themselves and do their jobs effectively. This funding provides municipal fire services from across the province with funding to purchase equipment and supplies for cancer prevention initiatives, equipment to address lithium-ion battery fires, and infrastructure upgrades and modernization. I was very happy to see funding go to our fire departments in Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston. I visited several of them in the fall to see firsthand how this funding will assist our firefighters. By investing in these resources, departments can respond more effectively, protect their firefighters, and deliver faster and safer services to the communities they serve. The Beckwith Fire Department, the Carleton Place Fire Department, Central Frontenac Fire and Rescue, Drummond North Elmsley, Tay Valley, Lanark Highlands, Mississippi Mills, Montague, North Frontenac, Perth, Smiths Falls, South Frontenac, and the Kingston Fire and Rescue Team received just under $671,000 to purchase life-saving equipment, ensuring the municipal firefighters have access to the tools and equipment they need to stay safe in critical situations when they are needed.
I recognize the member for Parkdale High Park.
Speaker,
it would be nice if the Premier governed for the whole province, but instead, like a child whose parents have failed to buy him a Lego set, he obsessively uses taxpayers' money to build infantile schemes along Toronto's waterfront. While families across Ontario are buckling under the weight of grocery bills and rising rents, this Premier is focused on a luxury spa, a convention centre in the lake, and the Billy Bishop Airport takeover. He's trying to turn our public shoreline into a private playground. And I'd like to remind him that his predecessor, Bill Davies, halted the Spadina Expressway, saying, "If it's not for the people, stop." Ontarians want clean, E. coli-free beaches for boats and sandcastles, but this government is rerouting sewer overflow to accommodate private spas, risking contamination in Lake Ontario. Speaker, waterfront land on one of the world's Great Lakes is rare. It should belong to everyone, not just those who can afford luxury spas and private jets. The Premier keeps giving away our children's future for developers' payday, and that has to stop. And while this Premier consolidates power, hides his business dealings, the NDP is standing with the millions who are pushing back, just like we did on the Greenbelt, because Ontario deserves better. Now, to the Premier, I see the obsession. I'll buy you a Barbie beach house or a Lego beach amusement park.
I recognize the member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to welcome the Heart and Stroke Foundation to Queen's Park today, as it highlights two crucial health issues that affect Ontarians every day: stroke and cardiac arrest. In Ontario, someone experiences a stroke every 12 minutes, and delays in treatment can lead to permanent disability or even death. That's why it is essential that Ontarians recognize the fast signs of stroke. Face, is it drooping? Arms, can you raise them both? Speech, is it slurred or jumbled? And time to call 911. Knowing the fast signs offers simple and effective way to identify stroke and seek urgent treatment. When someone experiences cardiac arrest, the heart suddenly stops. Every minute without CPR or defibrillation dramatically reduces the chance of survival. This government has demonstrated leadership through Bill 141, the Defibrillator Registration and Public Access Act, which establishes a framework for provincial AED registration to map AEDs and connect these life-saving devices to emergency responders. Fully realizing the impact of the legislation depends on public awareness, including people, especially young people, that have confidence to skills and respond. Please join the Heart and Stroke in the legislative dining room tonight at 5:30.
I recognize the member for Spadina, Fort York.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This Premier is not satisfied with being the Premier of Ontario. He also wants to control he wants to control the chair of every region. He wants to control the mayor of every city and town in this province. He wants to control the directors of all of our school boards, and he wants to control every police officer and judge. And his latest attack on our democratic rights is Bill 100, the Seizing Control of Regional Governance Act. With this act, he's going to be replacing elected regional chairs with his appointees. And these appointees will be able to govern with only 1/3 of the votes of the elected councillors. This is an assault on our democratic rights. Ontario's the only region, the only jurisdiction in the Western world where we do not have the right to majority vote decision-making in our democracy. Under this government, we no longer have the right to democratic municipal elections. We no longer have the right to impartial judges because this government is appointing Conservative judges. He's tried to appoint his friend to be the chief of the Ontario Provincial Police. He is gutting the Freedom of Information Act so he can hide his phone records and not obey a court order. He stripped us of the freedom of speech and our other charter rights using the notwithstanding clause. And what is he doing with this consolidation of power? He is using it to hide his attacks on our public services and to hide his corruption. We need to restore our democratic rights in Ontario, and gutting and removing Bill 100 is a start in that direction. Thank you.
For statements, I recognize the member for Bay of Quinte.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to share an announcement in my riding of Bay of Quinte. Last Friday, I had the pleasure of making a significant announcement at Belleville General Hospital on behalf of the Premier and the Minister of Health. BGH's aging HVAC infrastructure challenges needed to be addressed in order to ensure that staff and patients alike had a safe and welcoming environment that was conducive to providing high-quality care. That is why I was so proud to announce $20,037,000 to replace the boiler plant, to replace one of the chillers and to refurbish the other two 700-ton chillers, and to replace the emergency power system. These upgrades will not only ensure that everyone at BGH is comfortable in the climate-controlled environment, but also double operating capacity when using the emergency power system and reduce energy usage by 25 to 30%. This investment represents 90% of the costs associated with the projects, and I want to thank the leadership and the maintenance team for their advocacy and planning for this project. I especially want to thank Tim from the maintenance department, who got creative and was able to source the emergency power system over 4 years sooner than the projected timeline, meaning that the units are already on site and ready to be installed. Tim, thank you for the incredible work on behalf of our hospital and all the people of the Bay of Quinte. And I know we have you until the end of the year, but in case I don't see you, congratulations on your retirement. Very well deserved.
Member statements. I recognize the member for Mississauga-Malton.
Each year, there is one thing common for more than 26,000 families across Canada. They receive support from Ronald McDonald House Program. Speaker, one of the hardest reality any family can face is having a child in a hospital far from home. Charity provides a place to stay for family members during child's medical journey by giving them the ability to be by their child's side during some of the most difficult moments of their life. These homes are truly a godsend for these families in pain. 1 in 4 Canadians have either stayed at a Ronald McDonald House or know someone who has. Over the past 45 years, more than 500,000 families have supported across Canada by Ronald McDonald House. Today, there are 16 Ronald McDonald House programs and 21 family room programs, including one at Sick Kids, providing families with meal, mental health, wellness support, and a place to rest and recharge close to child's bedside. Colleagues, May 6th is Mac Happy Day. I encourage everyone to visit their local McDonald's, take part, and support this noble cause. Together, let's do our part and support those who are supporting our communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Hastings, Lennox, and Addington.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I was recently honored to stop by the Volunteer Appreciation Day hosted by one of my smaller municipalities, the Township of Tudor and Cashel. They were hosting the day for all their volunteers, but with an extra special thank you to one in particular, Debbie Woolley. Debbie has deep roots in the community of Tudor and Cashel. For over 30 years, she's been volunteering and contributing to help sustain small community life. Debbie's organized and coordinated so many initiatives and events for families and children, from improvements to the playground equipment at the community centre to this last term, serving as the library board chair. Her long involvement in the community has set a great example for her children, for her grandchildren, showing them what it means to be there for your neighbours and to take part in local life, helping your small community. Speaker, in my role as MPP for Hastings, Lennox and Addington has given me the opportunity to interact and engage with so many volunteer organizations and people just like Debbie. With each visit, I'm reminded of these people, the everyday folks that share their time and energy, that make the difference and help to define the amazing quality of life in rural communities. Speaker, as we approach Volunteer Appreciation Week, I want to express my gratitude to all those who help. Volunteers are the very heart of our communities, and we are very grateful to you. Thank you, Speaker.